RRF Caserta, South Italy. News in English.
Welcome back to the deep dive. So, you handed us this huge stack of Italian sports media, and it is just buzzing with reactions, passion, and, let's be honest, a lot of rage after a huge European match day.
It really is. We've been looking at the immediate fallout from December 9th, 2025.
And if your goal is to really understand the tactical and emotional earthquake that just hit Serie A, you are in exactly the right place.
Our mission today is to filter all that noise.
Yeah.
We're going to distill what actually matters, from penalties that are being called a disgrace to an underdog's incredible surge, and even the surprising second careers of some football legends.
Okay, let's jump right in with the big headline. Inter's really heartbreaking 0-1 defeat against Liverpool. This wasn't just a loss, was it?
No, not at all. It was a controversy-fueled collapse, and it all centered on one single, very disputed penalty call that just overshadowed everything else.
Right, and that's where we have to start, because the fury wasn't really about the 90 minutes of play.
No, it was forensic. The penalty, which decided the match, was given against Inter for what the source analysis called a light tug by Alessandro Bastoni on Wirtz. Szoboszlai steps up, converts it, and, well, 1-0.
Yeah.
Game over.
And I think it's crucial for you to understand when we say source analysis, we are talking about the Maviola review. That's the Italian paper's own frame-by-frame video analysis. So what did the Maviola find?
It was damning. I mean, the internal review flat out called the VAR's intervention a gross error. Their conclusion was that the penalty was just unjustified given how light the contact was.
So a soft call made even worse because VAR got involved.
Exactly. It was seen as a massive overreach. And the reaction from, the Italian football elite was just explosive. It wasn't just typical fan frustration, which we saw everywhere online from the Nerazzurro population.
No, this was different. We had the legendary analyst Fabio Capello step forward, and he did not hold back.
He really didn't. Capello called the decision scandalous and a disgrace. But what makes his critique so important is the warning he gave. He said, "A call this weak sets a dangerous precedent."
Which means what for the game going forward?
Well, think about it. If you're a defender, you now have to worry that any tiny bit of contact, no matter how incidental, can be turned into a game-deciding penalty by VAR. It just injects chaos into the art of defending.
That's a huge psychological hurdle. And beyond the perceived injustice, the fallout for Inter is very, very real. Coach Chivu was visibly frustrated.
He was. He noted this was the second Champions League incident they faced this season, and he vowed that they would fight against the injustices.
But that fight just got a lot harder, didn't it?
Exponentially harder. They suffered a double injury blow in that match. Calhanoglu is now doubtful, and maybe more critically, Francesco Acerbi is confirmed to miss the upcoming Supercoppa.
Wow. For a team challenging for a trophy, losing a key central defender that's just a crippling blow.
And this all feeds directly into that painful critique that always seems to surface when Inter plays in Europe. The sources suggest Inter tends to become small when playing against the big teams.
Is that a fair assessment tactically, or is that just frustration talking?
It's a bit of both, I think. But the sources point to a kind of systemic failure to execute under that intense pressure. It's not just about the referee. They broke down individual players, and Marcus Thuram was singled out with a poor 5 out of 10 rating.
And how did they describe his performance?
Spent and vaporous.
Ouch. So basically, he just disappeared.
Exactly. And when your star forward is a no-show against top opposition, that perception of being small starts to feel like a reality. The pressure just seems to crush them.
Absolutely. The margin for error is 0. But here is the incredible counterpoint, a team that absolutely thrived in that same environment. Atalanta.
Yes. And this is where the story gets so compelling. While Inter was imploding in this storm of controversy, Atalanta was pulling off what the sources called a dream victory, overturning Chelsea 2-1.
And this wasn't just a lucky win.
Not at all. It was driven by sheer individual brilliance. Scamacca scored, but the real star of the show was Charles de Ketelaere, CDK.
He was unbelievable, wasn't he? The match reports gave him a vertiginous 8 out of 10 rating. That's exactly the kind of clutch performance that Inter was missing.
And the immediate consequence of all this is a major shakeup in the Champions League table. With that win, Atalanta actually leapfrogged Inter, rising to third place.
And Inter dropped to fifth.
That one refereeing decision, that one penalty, cost them so much more than just the 3 points.
It's the ultimate contrast, isn't it? One team's night is defined by failure and controversy, the other by this brilliant, unexpected success. But the sources also pointed out this really fascinating inverted parallel when you look at the youth teams.
That is such a crucial detail. So while Atalanta's senior squad is flying high, their youth team actually failed to reach the playoffs. They lost 3-1 to Chelsea's juniors.
But for Inter,
It's the complete opposite. Inter's youth team, their next generation, put on a 5-0 goal fest against Liverpool's youth side, and they did qualify for the playoffs.
so the immediate present is pretty painful for Inter's first team, but the future, that talent pipeline, looks incredibly healthy. It's a good moment to shift back to the domestic front, Serie A, now through match day 14.
And it is so tight at the top. You got Milan and Napoli tied with 31 points. Inter is right behind them at 30, and then Roma is a little further back at 27. Every single decision matters.
And the drama is really being driven by these huge managerial rivalries. Let's start with Napoli. Some good news for Coach Conte.
Yes, Romelu Lukaku is back in training. He's separate from the group for now, but the sources said it brought a definite smile to Conte's face. Lukaku even sent a message to the fans saying, "See you soon."
That's a massive psychological boost, especially with a huge Champions League match against Benfica coming up. And Benfica is managed by
His old rival, Jose Mourinho, of course. Conte is demanding his Napoli team be ready for combat. It's a clear call for aggression.
And Mourinho is already playing mind games, right? He was asked about Napoli's injury concerns, maybe looking for some sympathy, and his response was just pure Mourinho.
It was. He just dismissed it, told reporters, "Don't make me laugh."
That's what the sources live for, that clash of personalities. Conte wants combat, Mourinho wants psychological warfare.
It's the perfect setup. Meanwhile, over at Juventus, we're seeing something you almost never see from a manager in Italy. A moment of shocking candor from Luciano Spalletti.
Right, he's preparing for their match against Paphos, and he just came out and publicly admitted, I chose the wrong formation in their last match against Napoli.
You just don't see that level of public self-criticism. Usually, manager blames the ref, injuries, anything else. For Spalletti to own the tactical failure like that is a huge statement.
And he wasn't just tough on himself. He's making changes immediately, giving Zagreba a start. And he publicly called out 3 other players.
He did. David, Openda, and Yildiz. He said they must give more. He's using the media to apply pressure and set a really high bar.
It's fascinating. Now, switching from tactics to transfers, Roma is staying busy, even with a setback.
A definite setback. Their key defender, Ndika, has officially been called up for the Africa Cup of Nations. That leaves a pretty big hole in their defense.
And they're trying to fill it and bolster their attack by going after Xerxes, the Dutch player formerly at Bologna. Their director, Massara, is reportedly pressing Manchester and the players' agents to get a deal done fast.
You can just feel the urgency, can't you? The league table is so tight.
It really is. And finally, some good news for Milan. A sigh of relief, I think, for the Rossoneri fans. Rafael Leao's injury checkup was good.
Very good news. No lesion was found. It confirms he can return soon, probably against Torino. That's a bullet dodged.
For sure. And the sources made a point to highlight who stepped up while he was out.
Yeah, they named Christian Pulisic as Milan's top player in their recent 3-2 win over Torino. He's been an absolute lifeline for them, balancing out their attack when they needed it most.
So we have all these emotional highs, the lows, the mind games, the injuries. Let's zoom out a bit now and look beyond the pitch, the intersection of global sports and just colossal finance.
The numbers coming out of the sources are just staggering, and nothing illustrates this better than tennis. We're not just talking about 2 players anymore. The sources refer to the Alcaraz and Sinner rivalry as an enterprise.
An enterprise. That sounds less like a sport and more like a Fortune 500 company.
Well, their rivalry is quantified as generating $130 million in turnover in 2025 alone.
130 million euros.
That's the figure. They aren't just athletes, they're global mega brands. And speaking of Sinner, he's the defending champ at the Australian Open and one of 9 Italians on the entry list. Italian tennis has never had this kind of power.
And moving over to motorsports, we're seeing the end of an era.
A huge shakeup at Red Bull. Helmut Marko is officially leaving the F1 team after 20 years, a truly defining shift of the sports hierarchy.
And the champions certainly live well. F1 champ Lando Norris was spotlighted not just for his title, but for his car collection.
Yeah, an eclectic one. The sources mention a Ferrari F40 and a vintage Lamborghini Miura.
It's easy to get lost in those huge numbers and the celebrity, but I really love these next two stories from the sources. They bring us right back down to earth.
It's the ultimate contrast to the $130 million enterprise, isn't it? The former center forward Rigano now works as a bricklayer and a builder.
And his quote was just perfect.
It's brilliant. He said, "I know how to do two things, score goals and build houses."
I love that. It's so grounded. This is an elite athlete used to stadiums, cheering his name, finding fulfillment in a real physical trade. And there's another one.
Yes, former goalkeeper Donny. He's found huge success in a second career as a construction entrepreneur down in Florida. He's built over 3,000 homes.
So you have these high-profile athletes finding this stable, sustainable success far from the pressure cooker of the Champions League we were just talking about. And yet, the public appetite for that pressure is still immense.
Oh, absolutely. The viewership numbers for the Napoli-Juventus match were huge. Over 6 million people watched on DAZN. That just confirms the commercial and, the emotional value these clashes still hold.
So to wrap this up for you, what does it all mean? We saw this dramatic contrast between Inter's frustration, defined by controversy and coming up short, and Atalanta's amazing ascent, fueled by brilliant individual performances.
And we saw pressure being applied mercilessly by the managers. Conte wants combat. Spalletti admits his own mistakes and then demands more from his stars.
Right. And the market keeps moving, with Roma pushing for Xerxes and Milan getting huge relief from Leao's recovery.
The central theme through all of this, really, is pressure and perception. One disputed refereeing decision, one moment of weakness against a big rival. It can just dominate the headlines, expose all your vulnerabilities, and completely shift the balance of power. The cost is immense.
And that leads us to our final thought for you to think about. Based on this incredible contrast the sources gave us, if the emotional cost of being an elite sports star is so high you're always being judged, you can be undone by something completely out of your control, like a scandalous penalty. Does the stability of finding a second life, like Rigano and Donny building literal houses, actually offer a more sustainable and maybe more satisfying form of success than the transient, emotionally brutal glory of winning European trophies?
Something to think about until the next deep dive.
RRF Caserta, South Italy. News in English.